And Russian Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu has said that Western weapons in Ukraine will lead to the escalation of the war. Speaking to military officials, Shoigu said the supplies, quote, effectively draw NATO countries into the conflict. Last week, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said weapons supplied by the West would not be used for attacks on Russian territory. A consortium of 3 European countries is to supply Ukraine with at least 100 battle tanks. The German defense minister announced the initiative during a surprise visit to Kiev, where he met with Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky.
Germany's defense minister Boris Pistorius came to Kyiv promising tanks. Captured Russian tanks are on display here in the capital, a reminder of how fast both sides are losing fighting vehicles. Germany, the Netherlands and Denmark now want to send Ukraine at least 100 refurbished older Leopard 1 tanks on top of the 14 newer Leopard 2s announced last month.
Mr. President. Minister, welcome.
Ukraine's president told Pistorius the number of tanks currently pledged will not be enough to ensure victory.
The recent decisions taken by our European friends and our defence ministry can give us parity, though not an advantage, on the battlefield. Everything depends on the time frame, the numbers and the modernity of the tanks.
Ukrainian troops being presented with medals for bravery. Pistorius also met soldiers who will operate the Leopard tanks.
You can see in their faces how overloaded they are, freshly returned from the front. Their experiences have shaped them. They are now going to Germany to get trained on the Leopard before going back to the front. These burdens are unimaginable.
The German-made tanks are badly needed as fighting intensifies. Ukraine expects a new Russian offensive in the coming weeks.
More, let's bring in Mike Martin here. He's a defence analyst from King's College London. Mike, the German Defence Minister, Boris Pistorius, making a surprise visit there to Ukraine. What do you make of that?
Well, it's really a reflection of the importance of the announcement around the tanks, not just the Leopard 2s last week, but the Leopard 1s, and opening up the export licenses so that other countries who have German-made equipment can send that to Ukraine. The one question, of course, is how long these tanks are going to take. But it seems today from these images, particularly of the defence minister, presenting awards to Ukrainian troops, that Germany really is positioning itself fully behind Ukraine now.
So, Leopard tanks for Ukraine, about 100 of them, I understand. Do you think they will get there fast enough to make a difference, especially given that Russia itself is mobilizing more soldiers and weapons?
There have been a lot of confusing reports about the timelines. So before the decision was made last week about the Leopard 2s, it became clear that a lot of the training had already been completed on some of the Western systems, so the British and the American and the German systems. But now reports today are saying that some of these Leopard tanks are going to come within months and some are going to come next year. Well, the war is going to be decided this year. And so really the tanks need to come within the next 6 weeks or so, 2 months at most. Russia will be starting an offensive in approximately a month when the spring thaw starts.
OK, so time is of the essence there. Now, we're getting reports that Russia is making advances in the Donetsk region right now. What's your assessment of the situation on the battlefield, Mike?
So Russia is still pushing onto the city of Bakhmut, which is the city that your listeners, your viewers have been hearing so much about over the last 2 months. It is a very similar tactic to one that they've used before. Lots of troops slowly advancing And what they're trying to do at the moment is to come around the north of the city and around the south, because that's the route that the two supply routes take in for the Ukrainians. And if the Russians can cut those supply lines, then it makes it almost inevitable that the city will fall. At the moment, the Ukrainians are still holding on, but it is at great cost, both to the Ukrainians and also to the Russians who are trying to press the city.
Mike, thank you so much as always. Defense analyst Mike Martin there from King's College London.